Flipkart's marketplace at a time when e-commerce was getting started in India to rethinking how we eat through CureFit and now Curefoods. Ankit Nagori has quietly played a critical role in reshaping three of India's biggest consumer revolutions. Today, in the latest episode of Rise of India's Digital Economy, we chat with him not just as a founder, but as someone who has always stayed ahead of the curve. Let's go. Hi, Ankit.
Good to see you.
Ankit, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
This series is called The Rise of India's Digital Economy.
Yep.
And you're someone who has built for three different generations.
Yes.
I was just reading about you, and from Flipkart's desktop first buyers
Yes.
to now Gen Zs who only shop on their phones.
Exactly.
Right? How do you view the Indian consumer has truly changed?
See, I think India, given its diverse population and different generations of internet users, most of the internet users in India are mobile first now.
Yeah.
And of course, there was a very small desktop first generation, which Flipkart really, used that audience well to grow the business. But for Flipkart also, the biggest growth came when we pivoted to mobile first thinking.
Yes.
And of course, since then, most of the businesses that are built in India are mobile first. And now a lot of consumer brands have to think Gen Z first, purely because the emerging consumer class is the Gen Z and younger.
Yes.
Now there's even a younger audience coming up. So as a consumer, if you're building a consumer brand, you need to be very aware of these changing trends and demography. And just staying updated with that itself is a very challenging task. And any consumer brand which can do that well is successful. So I'm just trying to do that.
Right. Just an extension to
Yes.
what we talked. As the consumer has changed,
Yes.
how has the India's digital commerce landscape changed? I mean,
Yeah.
so much has happened.
Yeah, I think a lot has happened. If you just look back in the last 15 years, starting from Flipkart, where, it was just a few desktop customers, even broadband penetration was so low.
Yes.
And when there was a metric of broadband penetration, credit card penetration, and the commerce was completely, dependent on how many more broadband connections and credit card users are coming in. From there to now, where UPI plus mobile phone plus the logistics network across the country is driving the commerce, and very different models have come up. Of course, Swiggy, Zomato are the largest food delivery companies which depend on real-time delivery. And then, of course, in the last 2 years, the QuickCommerce has come up where you can get anything and everything in less than 10 minutes, which is almost magical. So I think the revolution has been pretty, stark in terms of how the 15-year transformation has happened. But I still feel that it's just, very early days. I'm seeing a lot more categories getting into that quick delivery. It does not really mean 10 minutes. Anything less than 2 hours, I think, is quick delivery for different categories. You don't need a phone in 10 minutes necessarily, but if you get it in less than 60 minutes also, it's magical, right? So I feel that the digital transformation in the country will continue to happen purely because the demand is there. The demand is there and the density of demand is there. If you go to a location like Koramangala, where we are right now, 100,000 digitally savvy customers are there at any point in time. So you'll have 100,000 e-commerce orders, 100,000 quick commerce orders, food delivery orders, and whatnot. So in India, because of the population density, there are so many pockets like Koramangala, probably 20 such pockets in Bangalore, 50 such pockets in Delhi, 50 such pockets in Bombay. So if you take a summary, probably 300-400 really dense demand pockets, and all of these businesses are quite possible there.
No, I think the numbers they do give a very positive and very bright landscape to move forward. But what about the challenges? I mean, there has been pressure on the overall digital commerce market for the last 2 years, we can say. Late stage funding has of course suffered a lot. How do you look at these signals, and what do they tell about the next 5 or 7 years of the ecosystem?
See, I think, Pallavi, the industry is the digital industry is very large now. So it will start mirroring the macroeconomic patterns of the country and the world. In the last 2 years, the consumption of the country overall has been under pressure. And not only the new age companies, if you look at the legacy companies, FMCG companies, travel, everything has showed okayish results. So these are all economic cycles, Now, of course, given the tax relief to the middle class, we are seeing some improvement in the consumption. I'm hoping that with the inflation slowing down, which actually is true, like in the last 2 months, we're seeing inflation getting better. we really feel that the overall pricing to the customer will get better. The tax relief has given up to 1 lakh extra in the hands of a lot of people, of hundreds of thousands of people. And the combination of these two will improve the overall sentiment on the consumption side. And if that's happening, I really feel that the overall macroeconomic view of any digital company will also improve. And funding is just an outcome. If your numbers are growing, if you're becoming profitable, then the funding will also happen. Profitability in this industry actually depends on growth. Because you have so much installed asset. Imagine any quick commerce company, they have thousands of dark stores already. Someone like a Flipkart, they have thousands of delivery hubs. So as and when demand grows, these assets get sweat better. And the profitability comes in, investors get excited. So I think in a large industry, which now the digital industry has become, the overall patterns of demand will really mirror the national patterns.
No, I think that's a fair point. That's true. I remember our last conversation, you talked about legacy companies, right? And I think with Curefoods, which is a house of brands now, one of the vision is to build the digital era of something like a, HUL.
Yes.
Right? What is the biggest inefficiency, especially now that you're 5 years into this?
Yes.
Biggest inefficiency you're yet solving for when you're building something like this?
I think while India's food supply chain is quite sorted, I think India has done really well in building a great, robust food supply chain. I still feel that there's a lot of fluctuation in supply and pricing on a lot of commodities, purely because we still depend on international trade for a lot of that. I think cooking oil is one of that. I think chocolate, cocoa, coffee is another. And I just feel that if there is a way where, we become more, independent and less dependent on others, of course, we'll have to export, but there are better predictability patterns and better consumption cycles. It'll make it easier. And I think a lot of countries have solved that, by having better trade terms, etc. India has, of course, improved a lot in the last decade or so. But I think the biggest inefficiencies also come from these food supply chain patterns. But if you look at the overall supply chain in the country, the cold supply chain, the storage, the warehousing, everything is top class. I think it's a good time to be a food entrepreneur because a lot of railroads have already been built. And I would thank all the QSRs which have been in the business for the last 30 years in the country. I think they've really done a lot of groundwork of building this supply chain.
Excellent. So you said it's a good time to be a food entrepreneur. If there's one category, in which if you had to build them, bring them under Curefoods brand, or you had to invest in them some way or the other, what is that one category you would really?
Yeah, I think there are three which I'm seeing, brands which I think, categories which I think will be big and we don't have them yet. I think one is coffee. I think look at all the new age coffee brands. They're doing exceedingly well. People really are looking for specialty coffee. We've been looking at partnership opportunities. We've not found anyone which excites us yet. But coffee is definitely one. Second is ice cream. Again, very large category. Legacy brands are massive. There are thousands of crores in revenue, but the new age brands are coming up. Something differentiated, either low calorie, low sugar, fruit flavored, natural flavor. So there is an opportunity there. And third is chicken. I think India is a chicken first country. Most of the meat consumption is chicken led. And of course, KFC is a massive brand. They've done so well. But given that KFC is so big and there is no clear number two, there's an opportunity there as well. So I would say it's a good time to be an entrepreneur in any of these three categories. I would say first two are still now pretty populated with a lot of new age brands. I'm not seeing a lot of new age chicken brands. And I actually think that in the next week or year or two, there will be at least 3-4 chicken brands out there worth talking about.
Excellent. So I think if someone's building in these categories, they should speak to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ankit, one of the interesting developments at Curefoods over the last few months was Krispy Kreme partnership. Right? Talk to us a little about that.
See, I think one interesting thing that's happened, Pallavi, over the last 5 years when we've been building is that we've built the engine of bringing or acquiring brands and stacking them on our supply chain. What is our supply chain? Our supply chain is a production unit, cloud kitchens or restaurants, and the cold vehicles which ply between them, and our ability to sell from those cloud kitchens to the customers either through Swiggy, Zomato or our own channels. So now we feel that we are ready to get more brands either through acquisition or through franchising them and bringing them to India. So Krispy Kreme is of course a very, very powerful brand globally. They're in tens of countries, most loved donut brand I can say. And we realized that our dessert portfolio is strong with Cake Zone and frozen bottle, but India is also like really, really dessert crazy nation. And we think that there can be multiple categories that can be built. Like ice cream is one, and donuts definitely, while it feels very, very foreign to us, but at the end of the day, it's very, very, like, it's very basic. It's exactly how Indians love this desserts, it's similar ingredients. So I would say that what Krispy Kreme is doing is it's just coming and sitting on top of our existing supply chain and just adding one more reason for the customer to use the Curefoods set of brands. So they are being sold from our existing cloud kitchens. And of course, if we set up a new Krispy Kreme store, then of course it will be an exclusive store. But a lot of our expansion will happen through our existing supply chain and existing cloud kitchens.
But for a global brand and for the Landmark Group also, to partner with a 5-year-old startup in India, I mean, that's something to be celebrated.
No, I think yesterday only I was telling someone that, it's a big testament for the supply chain model that we've built purely because look at the older franchisees, who've done it. Of course, Devyani, they are a legacy company. Varun Beverages is such a massive company. Jubilant, what a wonderful business they have built with Domino's, but they were like an industry house with multiple businesses, Jubilant Biosciences, Life Sciences, whatever it's called. And of course, other Tata has brought Starbucks to India. So for us with limited credentials, if I may, in the food world at least, to get an international brand excited about us is purely because they saw what we've built. They saw our relationship with Swiggy and Zomato and our ability to create supply across the country. Now we are in 50 plus cities in the country, 500 plus locations. And for any new brand to come in and just get a head start on day one to be able to use that cloud kitchen network is very powerful.
I think congratulations to your team.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
What about quick commerce and not just delivery, but I think as a consumer now, it's also changing how we consume and how we discover food. Eating avocados only because they're on Pinterest.
Yes.
So what do you think about the entire quick commerce, social commerce impact on food in our kitchen, food we order, food we eat, everything?
No, I think it's good that you brought up Pinterest because I actually feel like Pinterest/Instagram plus quick commerce has completely changed how the younger audience is consuming food. Like all the chatter around protein, clean ingredients, sourdough. So avocado on one side and sourdough on the other side. As a combination, I think and high protein. I think this is all the narrative which we hear in the West, and of course some of it is relevant for India also. And for all these QCommerce platforms to be able to bring all of that supply so quickly to India. You're talking about avocados, I'm talking about Mr. Beast. All the brands that he's created, all the SKUs that he's created is now available on the 3 platforms. And I see that even if they're not available through the direct channel, it's through our importing channel. They found importers who can help. So I think quick commerce is, while it's quick in terms of delivery, it's also quick in adapting to the new trends. Because because a lot of young kids now are consuming YouTube for the Western, like we used to read Archie comics and we get to know about the pop culture. I think they are watching YouTube videos and they get to know the pop culture. And that's how the trends are changing. And interestingly enough, all the quick commerce platforms are really, really building on top of that. Like I would say that, for example, Halloween, I remember last year on all the quick commerce platforms, it was a complete takeover of the Halloween page purely because they knew that the kids would be ordering candies and chocolates and whatnot, and all the Halloween costumes delivered in 10 minutes. So I think this will continue to happen because quick commerce is not just a way to get faster delivery, but it's also a way to, get a lot of discretionary stuff which is not available in general outside. So.
True. No, I think that's again a very interesting take. And Pinterest, Reddit, these platforms are, they could be big commerce platforms.
They can easily be big, very big. I think YouTube is right now driving a lot of that. And if there is a seamless way of integrating commerce there, a lot of brands can do a lot of good stuff.
Right. Ankit, as a seasoned entrepreneur, you have also seen funding bloom and funding droughts. You know? Today, when we are in a bit of a conservative market, if there's one advice you can give to founders, especially those who are in this for the long game, right? What would it be? That something they should just put their head down and focus on?
I think two things. I think one, find a way to dilute as little as possible. Of course, this is a very common advice, but very tough to execute. I understand that, people need to raise money at different points in time, and there will be good valuations, bad valuations, down rounds. But at the end of the day, your ownership is super important. And if you are diluted to a point where you don't feel excited in the long term, then it's not good enough. And second way of doing that is to really, really focus on unit economics. See, there are multiple ways of being profitable. One is to be profitable. Second, having a sound profitable model. But there could be investment view. So having a very clear view of what is your unit economics on existing business, what are the investment areas, and it should not be a confused strategy where you really don't know whether you're burning money on new business or old business. I know for a fact that a lot of entrepreneurs don't get this right, where they continue to look at a consolidated burn while the burn is actually coming from older businesses as well, but they continue to think that the investment is the reason why they are not. So I think if there's a clean old versus new strategy on unit economics and very clean view of profitability, then you'll anyways raise lesser, require lesser, and dilute lesser. So
I think as a founder, that would be one of the biggest learnings from this interview. Thank you for being candid.
Yes, absolutely.
Ankit, also, when we talk about Flipkart, I just want to go back to your time there. You were employee number 33.
Yeah. Yes.
So Flipkart is often known as the, it has the Flipkart mafia.
Yeah. It's an entrepreneur factory.
Entrepreneur factory, yes. You have seen the culture being up from ground, Something you can share what you have learned there and how it has shaped you as a leader, how you mentor your team here at Curefoods.
I think 2-3 things, which I think continue to be very consistent with what I think of Flipkart and what I talk about Flipkart. One is just the audacity of the goal that, we'd all undertaken back then of being India's largest retailer, not just largest e-commerce player, but India's largest retailer. And this goal was set when we were just doing probably 1,000 orders a day. But we understood that the opportunity with internet and the distribution is massive. Yeah. And of course, it required insane execution, which we had a very, very good team in place. So I would say that audacious goal and talent density worked together to create that outcome. Second is, of course, finding a way to give entrepreneurial independence to people in the company. So if you find a way to just create intrapreneurs, if I can use that word, in the company where people can have their own small businesses which they run, they have the budget, they have full freedom to execute so long as the boundary conditions are met, then it's the best way of doing it. Otherwise, you can't get the same outcome. And the reason why it works is because they're all invested into the business through the route of ESOP. So I think you have to be very, very liberal with ESOPs. It's one of the biggest reason or the single largest reason why we saw all those entrepreneurs emerge like me. And look at the outcome now, like half a dozen unicorns, maybe 24 companies with 500 million valuation and maybe 100 companies which are Series A and beyond funded. So it's an outcome which is, in line with even the biggest ecosystems. Maybe PayPal Mafia also don't have these absolute numbers, like 100 plus companies coming out of it. So.
No, I think that's something to be really proud of for the Indian ecosystem.
No, absolutely. I think, and the way the seasoned entrepreneurs who've come out of Flipkart continue to support the younger. I think the kind of initiatives that have happened, X to 10X, which Binny has done. I think most of us are now angel investors and making sure that any good idea that comes out of that ecosystem is funded, either me or someone else. We come together sometimes and we always pool in ideas. I think that is working pretty well. And I think Binny continues to be a very important epicenter of that whole ecosystem. Yes.
No, I think it's such a beautiful thing.
Yes.
So, if someone from Curefoods team is starting up, I think that would be a very proud.
Yeah, see, it's a proud moment, but it's also in that particular moment a sad moment because you're letting go of someone who's really, really smart and really sharp, and then of course once the entrepreneurial bug has hit someone, then you can't do much. But of course, what we can do is to support them and figure out a way to, make sure they're set up for success. But for our own, selfish reasons, we try to stop them for this time. But like I say, once you have been bit by that bug, then you can't do anything.
I've also read this about you. You pick up a sport every year. Is that correct?
Not every year, every 3-4 years. So right now I'm in middle of badminton. I'm loving it. People have been telling me that pickleball and paddle is something to try, but right now I think I'm enjoying badminton. So
you're a big cricket fan.
Yeah, a huge cricket fan. I watch almost all IPL games.
So betting for
I think RCB looks super strong this year. Wow. So let's see. Yes.
One, as a closing comment, Ankit, any parallel you can draw between learning a sport
Yeah.
to building a business?
I think more than learning a sport, I think the biggest parallel is with building a muscle. So see, building muscle is super tough. While you're doing it, you hate it. You know, imagine going to the gym, and it's a complete antithesis of junk food. When you're eating it, you love it, but you feel so guilty afterwards. But with building a muscle or learning a sport or playing a sport or running a marathon, while you're doing it, you're hating it. But the feeling that you get after that is, I think, building a business, I think, is the toughest thing one can do. But when you get some outcomes, happy customers, good outcomes, recognition, success, then you feel so good about it. But while you're in it, it is tough, but you know that the outcome will be good. So
again, I think that's a bang on answer. Thank you so
Thank you so much and look forward.
Wonderful.
Thanks for doing this. Thank you so much. Yes.
For more such conversations, stay tuned at ETRetail.